So what if you could share not just the final result of your research, but the entire journey? I mean, the dead ends, the aha moments, the exact code that did the heavy lifting, and the story that ties it all together. Well, we're about to dive into a really powerful tool that does exactly that, the Jupyter Notebook.
I mean, really think about that for a second. A chart in a report, that just shows you the conclusion. But what about the process that got you there? How can you question the assumptions? Or maybe tweak the parameters a little? Or even build on the analysis yourself? This is a huge challenge for researchers and data analysts everywhere. And this slide just nails the difference perfectly. Over on the left, you've got a raw code file. It's powerful for sure, but it's also dense and it has absolutely no narrative context. But then on the right, you see a Jupyter Notebook. It completely transforms that same code into a story. You get the explanation, you get the live code, and you get the final chart all in one clear, readable document.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit more. The problem isn't the code itself. The code is great. It's what's missing when you share only the code.
And this right here gets to the absolute heart of it. Code tells you how an analysis was done, but it totally misses the why. And then, on the flip side, a static report might give you the why, but it completely hides the how. You can't interrogate the analysis, you can't run the code yourself, you can't even change a single little thing to see what happens. The logic and the story are just completely disconnected.
So, how do we fix this? Well, the solution is this really powerful concept called the computational narrative. It's basically a new kind of medium that's designed to bridge this exact gap.
And in practice, this computational narrative takes the form of a Jupyter Notebook. And it's so much more than just a file. It's a complete, self-contained environment. In one single document, you have live code living right next to the text that explains it and the charts that show the output. It's the whole story, all in one place.
This quote really reframes the entire process of doing analysis, It stops being this linear thing where you just write a script and then run it. Instead, it becomes what they call an iterative conversation with data. You write a little code, you see the result, you add some text to explain what you're thinking, then you modify the code and you do it again. It's a much more natural and, frankly, intuitive way to explore.
So, how does all this work under the hood? Well, it's surprisingly simple. This whole powerful idea really just rests on two fundamental building blocks.
And here they are. You have code cells for doing the work, and you have markdown cells for telling the story. That's it. This simple separation of doing from telling is the engine that drives every single notebook.
The code cells are basically the engine room. It's where you write and execute your Python, your R, or your Julia code, and the output just appears directly below the cell. Simple as that.
And then you have the markdown cells. This is where you become the storyteller. This is where you use some really simple formatting to add headings, text, links, and even complex equations to explain your method and interpret the results.
Okay, theory is one thing, right? But let's make this concrete. We're going to see a tiny computational narrative in action, calculating the value of pi using a classic method that's kind of like throwing thousands of virtual darts at a board. And here's how that whole story unfolds in the notebook. First, it starts with a markdown cell explaining the concept. Then, a code cell goes ahead and throws thousands of those virtual darts. After that, another code cell visualizes them for us, so we can actually see what's going on. And finally, a last cell calculates our estimate for pi. See? Each step blends the explanation and the execution, building the story as we go.
But look, this isn't just for fun little examples like calculating pi. This exact same structure, this blend of code and narrative, is right at the heart of some of the most important scientific discoveries of our time.
Take this for example. In 2017, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded for the first direct observation of gravitational waves. We're talking about actual ripples in space-time, stuff that Einstein predicted a century earlier. And guess how this incredible discovery was shared? Yep, with Jupyter Notebooks.
The teams behind the discovery didn't just publish a paper. They published their entire data analysis as a set of Jupyter Notebooks. This meant any physicist, any student, literally anyone, could download the notebook, rerun the exact code on the actual data, and see the discovery for themselves. It was a total landmark moment for transparent and reproducible science.
Or check out this incredible example from Stanford. Researchers analyzed cell phone data from over 700,000 people across the globe to study the link between physical activity and obesity.
And just like with the gravitational wave discovery, they didn't just publish a static paper. They released all of their code and data as notebooks on GitHub. And this allows any other researcher to go beyond just trusting their findings and instead to dive into the data themselves, explore new angles, and build on the work directly. That's open science.
But this kind of power and transparency isn't just for Nobel laureates, right? So let's talk about how you can share your own work and make your own computational narratives live and interactive for anybody.
So, you've built your story. Now what? You've got a few options for sharing. You can export it as a static PDF or an HTML page, which is great for sharing a quick snapshot of your work. But the real magic happens when you let other people interact with it live. And a key technology that makes this all possible is a totally free service called Binder. You just point Binder to your notebooks, say on a site like GitHub, and it automatically builds a live executable environment that can run in any web browser. It's fantastic.
And for the person on the other end, it is unbelievably simple. They just click a little Launch Binder button. A moment later, your full notebook is up and running right in their browser. There's no software to install, no complicated setup. They can immediately run your code, change things, and explore your work interactively.
Okay, so let's bring it all together. What's the big takeaway here? First, Jupyter Notebooks combine code and narrative to tell a complete story. Second, this format is powering a whole new era of transparent, reproducible science, from small things like calculating pi to massive discoveries like gravitational waves. And finally, amazing free tools like Binder are making these interactive stories accessible to absolutely everyone.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. If every analysis, every piece of research, told a complete, interactive, and verifiable story, what new discoveries could we all unlock together?